know y'all miss me.
Welcome to Samantha. Wise words. You're welcome. You're welcome. Welcome to Samantha. Wise words. You're welcome. You're welcome.
Welcome to another edition of Samantha Wise Words. I know y'all miss me. So, ladies, y'all ready? Y'all ready? At home, are you guys ready? Welcome to Samantha Wise Words. And like the jingle says, you're welcome. You're welcome. So tonight, I got a bunch of little crazy ladies here, but they're gonna give us. See, they had to laugh. We were starting the conversation with y'all, but we figured like it's 6:30, so now we got to have this conversation. We are gonna be talking about human trafficking. What does that mean? What does it look like? How do we prevent it? How do we stop it? How do we spot it? And then how do we get help and recover from it? Right? I've always thought that human trafficking was like that show, that movie Taken, where those little girls went out of the country, they were in Paris or out of foreign land or whatever, and those guys followed them to the house and, took them away, and their father had to come and follow them. That's what I thought human trafficking was. But as I started to research it, I found out that it's more to it, right? And so that's what we're going to talk about, all the different ways you could be human trafficked, or how they're preying on our children, they're preying on disadvantages, they're preying on people who have dreams. Because if you have a dream and you can't fulfill those dreams, somebody's going to dangle something in front of you. And that's just the beginning of it, from what I'm told. And so that's why I have my guest here today, which I am extremely excited for. Y'all give our guest a round of applause. We've been trying to get this podcast off for like a whole year. I think like a year. I started the podcast during COVID, and I think schedules was getting a little mixed up, and I got a call or a text about a month ago saying it's time to have this conversation. And it's not that it's time, but it's more prevalent now, right? And they're saying so many people are trafficked, and we don't know what to do. We don't know who to call. We don't know what resources are available to our people, to our kids, to our families, to people in our community. So this is going to be a conversation. So I suggest, this is what I'm going to tell y'all, get a pen, get some paper, or that I guess it's just for old people, pen and paper. Them kids, they be using their iPad, or this phone or whatever. But this is going to be the time where you do want to take notes. We will be fielding questions, so on and so forth. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and start to my left. Probably looks like you're right. And have the panel introduce themselves. I don't want to mess up their name. I don't want to mess up their title. I don't want to mess up nothing. So I'm going to let them tell you their selves. So go ahead to my left.
All right. Hello, and thank you, Sam of Samantha Wise, for allowing us this space and this opportunity. I am Dr. Shelitha Campbell and CEO of
You say doctor?
I did.
You said doctor.
Come on, doctor.
Come on, y'all.
A doctorate in my field. I am a nurse by training, and I just want to say I was where you were 5 years ago, right? Not really knowing exactly what human trafficking was, what it was about. I have a daughter, I have a son, and I felt like at that time, being a mother living in Oakland, I was not doing my children a good service by not knowing that in Oakland, human trafficking was huge. And so I felt like if I was as ignorant as I was, I knew that there were a lot more people out there like me. And so on board, we decided, you know what, we have to start talking about this a little bit more. We need to start raising awareness. And so we started in 2018 a walk to raise human trafficking awareness. And we have been partnering with local community-based partners in the Bay Area to come in and share this information with the community. So I am super excited that we are now in a platform outside of the walk, but just elevating and expanding the opportunity to share information.
Definitely, I appreciate you.
I'm going to hand it over to MISSSEY Allen.
Go, Miss MISSSEY.
Hello. Thank you again for having us, you and Dr. Shelitha. My name is MISSSEY Allen. I'm the Integrated Services Manager at MISSSEY. And I don't have a nice spiel like she did. That's all I got.
we gonna get to what you really do. 'Cause Marisa, like myself, we was both nervous, and I don't know why I still get nervous. And I'm kind of shy, so that people don't really believe that I'm really shy.
Listen, I was like, you who? I'm not doing this.
Right. When I called you and said we just gonna have a conversation,
I was like, I can be a big girl.
thank you. I thank you for participating. Now we got Miss Shelly. Go, Miss Shelly.
Well, good evening, everyone, and thank you, Sam, and thank you, Dr. Shelitha. Thank you all for participating. This is just going to be great. I can already feel it. I'm usually nervous too, but I really don't feel it that much this evening. So I'm Michelle. What you would see if you were to email me would be Michelle Laplace Watts, Senior Manager, Crisis Services and Family Preservation for Catholic Charities of East Bay. Big old title, which simply means I'm a manager in the crisis portion of our work. Therapeutic services. I am a licensed marriage and family therapist, supervising therapist.
You can help me.
You know what? We know each other now, so it'll be a little bit inappropriate conflict of interest.
Oh, okay. All right.
But I could make a referral. How about that? Thank you so much.
No, thank you.
They done made me nervous. I'm Kirsten Johnson-Bell. Thank both of you for having me here. I'm a program manager for the Above program, which stands for Achieving Balance, Overcoming Violent Environments at BAWAR. And basically, that's just working with youth from the ages of 12 to 25 that have experienced human trafficking, or is also known as commercial sexually exploited youth. So that's my title. That's my deal.
That's a huge deal. That's a huge deal.
Hey, Sam. Well, thank you, first of all, for allowing this space for us to come and have this conversation. That's very important. And, you know, we always love connecting with you, Sam. And I want to say thank you for always supporting a Sista's Touch. You've been there with us through our first 5K for this cause. So thank you so much to Tip Top Shape. We appreciate you. And hello, everyone out there. I'm Jaliza Johnson. I'm the co-founder, along with Dr. Shelitha Campbell, for Sista's Touch. We are happy to be here. We have a lot to talk about, and we will give you further information about our 5K a little bit later.
So y'all tie up your shoes, get them tennis shoes out, tie them up. We're gonna solicit you guys in a minute. So I looked up what human trafficking means, what the definition of it is. And it says the unlawful act of transporting or coercing people in order to benefit from their own work or service, typically in the form of forced labor or sexual exploitation. Slavery, lack of knowledge, and fear happens every day. No training, no venues. They attack your dreams. And I definitely feel like this should be taught in the schools, right?
Oh, yeah.
Because you got the ice cream man coming by, you got the candy man walking through the gates, you have people dangling Jordans, all, you know, just different things that the kids desire. There, from what I was investigating, is that 40 million human trafficking, there's 40 million victims right now. And San Francisco and Oakland, it's when it's the largest. And I wanted to find out, do we have law enforcement kind of working on that, right? And I know you guys are all in a community service arena when it comes to what do we do when we get them, or how do we, so do we ever go out and find them? How do we?
So I will say the police, they do sweeps. That's all I got. I can't tell you if they're effective.
Yeah,
But
just to piggyback on that, I won't say whether or not
Not
they're
piggyback?
whether or not they're effective is not something I'll speak to, but I do know that there's tons of sweeps done on the Blade in the general area where exploitation happens, and typically young ladies are, if they're minors, they're taken to the assessment center, and so that the assessment center is a CPS,
and they can just walk away. Yes.
and okay.
Within 24 to 48 hours, most of the youth, I guess you would say, that are picked up on the Blade, as they call it, right?
What's the Blade?
So the Blade is the area, the trafficked area, right? So there's Oakland, Richmond, Antioch, the major hubs within our area.
San Francisco also has a Blade.
Right, San Francisco has a Blade.
San Jose. So basically,
Right.
every major city in the Bay Area has a Blade, and it's an area that people are trafficked at. It's a street generally.
Yes.
So for Oakland, for example, it was East 14th, and so it's moved though to East 15th. But if you drive down East 14th, you'll notice. I'm sure you know.
Coming out between, like the cuts, right?
But
The
I-
young girls come out into the area, and it's between like about 21st down to about 24th, and it's moved over to East 15th now because they picked up. Just like back in the day, I'm older person here sitting at the table. Back in the day, it was on MacArthur Boulevard. Yeah, it's on West MacArthur, near Kaiser, near the hospital system.
Okay, so I always thought like y'all call it the blade
Or the track.
The track.
the
Track.
track.
The track,
Yeah.
the
So
blade.
it's not called the HOE stroll.
It's that.
That too.
I mean,
but
depends
yeah.
on who you are and what your language
Yeah.
is.
So if you
Exactly.
so when you say trafficking, right,
Mhm.
versus somebody just out there selling themselves, right?
Versus
Or
a sex worker. So the difference for me as a kid is a kid. So somebody that's under the age of 18 years
Cannot
old,
consent
they
to
cannot.
sex.
In California, I believe in the United States, you could under 18, you can't even consent to having sex with an adult, with someone that's over the age of 18. So anyone else, right? If they're 18 and older, and this is something that they choose to do, then that's what I mean. That's
Yeah.
what they're doing. And there's a very very diverse population, a wide variety of folks that's out there, and so we have to look at all of the layers of why somebody would choose that, right? Because maybe they were exploited as a child. Maybe somebody took advantage of their vulnerabilities. For instance, maybe a kid in foster care, you in a group home, you ain't got your hair combed, you ain't got no lunch money, you got some raggedy clothes on. Men and exploit. I won't even say
that money.
I wanted to say,
yeah.
and that's what I'm
and
saying.
you
have
already
wants.
have
Right.
And
your wants
desire.
and your needs.
Right.
But if your needs not being met at home,
Exactly.
if
Yeah.
somebody comes to you, it could be a cheeseburger.
So
Yeah.
or
Often it is a cheese.
It could be like let's go to McDonald's. If I'm driving
That's it.
to a middle school
Yeah.
and I'm an exploiter and I'm looking for somebody to go, a
Yeah.
vulnerable person.
Yeah.
Okay, let me pull. You could see the kids you could tell the ones that.
so I'm walking. Let's do an example.
Okay, let's go.
I'm in middle school. I got my backpack on, right? And I'm walking down the street. You a man? What you gonna say?
Hey, baby.
So you
Hey,
gonna
baby.
Slow down the car. Let's just say I'm in
Hey,
a.
baby.
Let me
and
just-
I stop with my
You
backpack.
hungry?
You talking to me?
Let me say you in a Charger, okay?
There
You in
you
an
go.
SRT.
Yes.
Vroom, vroom.
Vroom.
You got the music
Nice.
going. You
Yeah.
roll down the window. You got the tents on.
Yeah.
Hey,
Nice.
little mama, what you doing? Where you going? Oh, I'm
Hey,
walking
beautiful,
home.
you can't stop
You so
yourself.
beautiful. You could be looking crazy, right? Maybe nobody at home is telling,
Right.
not even looking crazy. I'm sorry, but maybe no one at home is even giving you that.
Every
Right.
So
So
home
with that
you
confidence,
don't feel
right,
that.
right,
you don't feel beautiful. So somebody coming to tell you that, like, oh, you so beautiful. It might not work that first day.
But he don't keep
It might
coming.
work the second day though.
They gonna keep
Right.
coming.
The second or the
He gets
third
one
So
bite.
it becomes
You talk,
familiar.
he's coming
It
back.
becomes familiar. Oh, that's now he's Johnny.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right. So
And
now
honestly, I'm gonna also say that's one way. Another way is they see you walking every day. You walk past the same spot every day. You ain't saying it. You're not engaging. You're like, yeah, no, that ain't for me. Gorilla pimp. Pick come and just snatch you up and
Snatch
throw
you.
you in a van
Absolutely.
and rape you. And
Rape
then
you,
you are
drug you,
inducted into there you go. his, like it's
Guerrilla
Rude.
pimping is like less. It's seen less right now. Like it's a downward
Romeo.
trend of it.
Yes.
It's more of a Romeo pimping now, and we're gonna get to all the variations.
So gorilla pimp is like being taken like
aggressive.
by force.
It's violent,
Violent,
aggressive, from the
aggressive.
go, from the go.
Straight up.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you guys see girls that have had or have gorilla pimp or Romeo.
Yeah.
Gorilla pimp
Romeo
is
is
all
more
of it.
common, and then there's mama.
That's
Wait,
interfamiliar
wait,
pimping.
wait,
Oh, we're
wait,
going
wait,
too
wait.
fast.
Oh,
no,
Yeah.
we're going too fast, y'all. We're going too
Y'all giving me so much at one time. I'm trying to write this stuff down. So a gorilla pimp is by force. I mean, and aggressive.
Mhm.
Right? It's all by force.
Yeah,
A
snatching.
Romeo is one that's
boyfriend.
Swap.
Boyfriend.
Well,
Right.
he's-
Yeah.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
he tells you you're beautiful,
Yeah.
buys you things.
so
Yeah.
when you say groom, what does that look like? So that parents that's listening to this conversation can go back and kind of talk to their daughters or talk to their sons. I'm sure it happens to guys too.
Oh,
Mhm.
And so when you say groom, what does he gave me a shirt? He bought me a
Pair
pair
of tennis shoes.
He got
It
my
could be
nails
that.
done.
It could just be words like, listen, don't you want to come out here and get this money?
Mm-hmm.
It's so much money. It's a $150 billion industry. They're not gonna say that. But like, you don't want to come make the money? Oh, so you like being
Come
poor?
make
Make this money with me. Right, we're gonna do something. Because
We
once
can
they,
make
because the
We
grooming
a
also
team.
comes
Right.
with,
We
the,
a team. We a
It's a
team. This
team.
is together.
And it's right
This
about
is
the
this
guilt,
is
though,
to get
too.
some.
You working
I mean,
for us,
that's
baby.
how
You
it's
don't
for
love
us.
me,
It's
you
for us.
know, you're not gonna do this for me, that kind of thing. When,
You don't want
Like
us
if
to
you
be
really
happy.
love me,
Yeah.
if you really love me, you would do this for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, that.
And
there it
if you so you don't really love me,
Yeah.
then. So why I'm messing with you then?
Yeah.
Like it becomes a thing, and when you're young and very impressionable and vulnerable and traumatized and coming from a background or a family that is not giving you what you need, you're very susceptible to these type of things. Like it's very
And not
easy.
able to give you what you need. Because
Right.
let's think about that, right? This is historical trauma. This is intergenerational trauma.
Mhm.
This is mama and grandma may have been exploited as well, right?
Yeah.
This is somebody took advantage of me and sexually exploited me in my home prior to me going to middle school,
Mhm.
right? I may have been assaulted and incestuously sexually assaulted as a 4 or 5-year-old,
Mhm.
right?
is.
And then I guess I'm going to go down the road of not to mention the fact that where the etiology of all this comes from the system, right?
Mhm.
Something as simple as, do you want me to go to the system now?
I'm embracing.
We can transition. Y'all come on in here, girl. Come on, Miss Lieutenant. Yeah, we have another guest coming in. There was traffic, I'm sure.
And we are welcoming, right?
Yes.
The more the
Yes.
better.
Yes. I already knew that.
And I think Lieutenant will best be able to address that first question.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Which is
Yeah.
what's happening with
enforcement.
law enforcement,
Mhm.
right? What are they doing? How can, what role do they play with the sweeps and assessment center and not looking at these youth as victims and prosecuting them?
So Lieutenant Ty is here. We got a whole lieutenant in the building. And we're gonna let her introduce herself, and then we're gonna ask her the question about the sweeps. And just enlighten us, please. We want to let the audience know.
Hi, I'm Lieutenant Ty Modest, and I am a lieutenant with the Alameda County Sheriff's Office.
Okay. So these sweeps.
So I can only speak for my agency and the allied agencies that we work with in Alameda County. If we go back, I'd say probably 10 plus years, the sweeps did treat victims of human trafficking as prostitutes, and they were taken to juvenile hall. They were taken to the Santa Rita jail if they were arrested. Through education and just understanding that people are out there against their will, and while they don't necessarily participate with investigations so that you can get the pimps off the street, it is out of fear and intimidation and a whole host of reasons why they don't. And so taking all things into consideration, they are treated like victims. And when we do the sweeps and the primary focus is to get the Johns, the people paying for sex, and to get the pimps and to get the women and the women, the girls, the boys, because it's not just females. It's also young men being trafficked, to get them resources, to get them services, and that's the mindset and the way that's how we move now, which is drastically different than how we used to.
So does law enforcement have like a task force, and do they work with the community organizations to be like, okay, I think something's going on over here. I'm gonna call like a captain, a lieutenant, or someone at the enforcement agency to say, I just picked up 2 girls. They in my office right now. Do we have that connection? Is there some reason? I mean, do we have a system set up?
So like I said, all of my speaking will be from the perspective of the Alameda County Sheriff's Office.
Okay.
So we do not have a task force that is dedicated to human trafficking, but we do have a pipeline of resources, networking of resources through a host of You know, we have the assessment center, and we have other organizations. We work with BAWAR and a lot of other organizations to where when we make contact with anyone that we believe is a victim of human trafficking, the first thing we do is interview them and call in resources. And we get those resources to come right to our station to meet them where they are, to let them know that they are safe, and start talking about what the next steps are.
Okay, so you say you interview and then you call resources. Who at the table, which is it BAWAR that you're calling? Or?
So we're calling a host of
Okay.
different services.
Okay.
It just depends on the age who we're working with. Sometimes these people are very young. They go to safe houses. They go to the assessment center, which is a location that is, you know, it's undisclosed. So it just depends on who we're working with.
Okay.
And, you know, that kind of drives who we call.
Okay.
We have our investigative unit, which is our special victims unit, and they specialize in sex crimes. And so,
Like SVU.
yes,
Okay.
SVU,
Really?
just like
Yeah,
law and
that's my show. You see,
In all honesty, I mean, this may sound crazy to a lot of people, but Olivia Benson is why I'm in law enforcement. I was like,
Really?
I love that job.
Yeah,
I've been thinking that my whole life.
I'm telling you, yes, that really is like, for real, seriously, I am an avid law enforcement, law and order fan. And special victims and criminal intent, my two favorite, but I
Yes.
watch all of them, have probably seen every episode, can probably, you know, lip sync my
I
way through
watch every single one.
But it was the compassion and just the dedication and drive that, and even though it's television and a lot of what you see on there is not real. That's not how real police work happens. You don't get, you know, DNA hits in 7 minutes.
You mean to tell me y'all don't solve crimes in 45 minutes?
Sometimes those kind of things take years.
Yeah.
Sometimes they can be swift, especially if somebody already has DNA in the system.
Mhm.
But it's nothing like that. But what moved me about the show was, even though it was television, just seeing that they've been talking about human trafficking before we were even before we even understood what human trafficking was. Because I watch reruns of the show.
Probably thought the same thing I was thinking.
I watch reruns of that show through a different lens now. Because now I have the experience to understand exactly what they're talking about, exactly the type of criminality that they're trying to eradicate, and exactly what these victims go through. And so for me, when I got in law enforcement, the two demographics that I like to work with the most, because it bothered me the most when they were victims, children and elderly, because they are the most defenseless victims of all. So
Kirsten, and I wrote it down,
So sorry.
Kier. I'm sorry. So you're with Bay Area Women Against Rape.
Yes.
So you get a call from law enforcement.
Uh-huh.
What do you do?
It depends. So if they're on the scene, let's just say they're on the scene, and so to answer you, there is a HEAT team, and I believe that the HEAT team is the district attorney's office, right? And so with the HEAT team, when they go out and they've, gotten a young person in their custody and they're requesting an advocate, they want me to come out. I'm gonna come. I'm gonna talk to the youth. I'm gonna assess the situation. I'm gonna get away from them, because although, law enforcement does mean well, a lot of our girls here in Oakland are not really too keen to want to work with them and talk with the police. So then when I come, it's like, okay, let's step away real quick. Let me holler at you. And I kind of talk, I have a professional and, another side. So I talk to the coach.
yeah, there it is.
It was coming. I'm nervous. They got me on there.
Where they are.
We all have to coach with them.
Absolutely. And I think because I don't know, I always say, because typically it's girls of color, and the officers are not of color. In particular, So typically it's like, okay, somebody come in that looks like them, that's talking like them, that can understand their language, that can talk to them in their language. And I'm like, let's go get something to eat real quick. Like, let me talk to you.
Build that trust.
And just, I just start talking to them and figuring out just like a friend, like an advocate. Just
What
start,
do you need?
what's going on with you? How you feel about what's happening? What can I help you with?
Want help?
Do you want to get out? Is this what you want to do? Like, it's just a lot of, and it takes a while. So that initial conversation, you might not even get there. It depends if it's a talker or somebody that want to talk, or somebody that's more reserved. That's like, I'm out here. This is what I'm doing. This is my boyfriend. And it's like, okay, then I understand you either way. No matter what they throw at me, no matter what they say, it's like a non-judgment zone. I'm gonna rock with you regardless. I can work with you if you want to be out there. If you want to go somewhere, if you're ready to go somewhere right now, you can come with me. I could drop you off. The police don't gotta take you. I'll take you myself. And so we just kind of go that way.
Go ahead.
Can I just touch on something?
Yeah.
Because there are a lot of people who don't believe that there are some people who don't want to get out or aren't ready to get out.
Mhm.
And there are people who they come from a place where they have not experienced real unconditional love, whether it be from family or anyone else. So when you have someone who shows them that first as a grooming mechanism, then they fall into that space where they trust them, they love them, and they honestly believe that they would never do anything to hurt them. And so even though they're trafficking them, in their mind, they are helping this person so that they can grow together and do whatever it is they promise them. So there are challenges for law enforcement to try to have an impact in the way that people think we should, because there are a lot of barriers that don't get talked about openly. And then there's the trust issue,
Right.
where people of color don't trust the police because of bad acts. And we're just gonna keep it real.
I want to also say change is hard for anybody,
Absolutely.
right? And this is what I do. I don't know anything else. I don't have the confidence to do anything else.
Right.
So even when they leave, sometimes they go back because this is what I know and I'm comfortable with this.
Then there's the trauma bonding, right? So you're bonded because actually a lot of the exploiters, and I would think the majority of exploiters, are also survivors of trauma, right?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Within the systems. I know I keep
Yes.
pushing it. We got to get there because
Yes.
that's what's driving
Agreed.
this, right? These are systems, right? The isms of life, right? Racism, sexism, capitalism. It's extractive. It takes and takes and takes from you. It conditions you to abuse because you are abused. It's negative transaction, right? Remember we talked about that. Because there are positive transactional relationships, right? But these are very negative transactional relationships. So you are conditioned to being abused at a very young age, and you watched intergenerationally as all of us have been abused, and the kids watch that as they come up, right?
That's my motto.
If it
That's
is
my
a
motto
man
for
that's
love, that's my
exploiting,
motto for life.
exactly.
That's what I know.
That's
I'm
all you
comfortable
know.
with it.
Flip side of the coin of the young girl, if that they're exploiting, if it is in that case.
And it's not, in
Oh, no.
some cases,
Yeah.
it's not always a man.
No,
Right.
Sometimes the groomer.
Oh, yeah.
So
He's a
that's
woman.
that's
Sometimes
like
the
where I
groomer
wanted.
is a parent.
Well, and that's what I wanted to transition to. We talked about the gorilla pimp.
Okay.
We talked about the Romeo, and the next thing I wanted to talk about was the parental.
Familial exploitation.
Exploitation.
So what
But
does
how it fits with whichever one.
so
That word is off the table.
You know, I think that all words are on the table.
Okay.
we got some words on the table. So let's talk about that. What does that look like? I mean, y'all said that long
That looks like you're
in the family.
13.
Right.
We have bills to pay. You need to pull your weight.
Or we
That's
have
to
drug
make
habits
that
too.
money.
We have
Or
drug
for
habits,
instance,
yeah.
like, you just gotta go in here and sit with him, sit with the landlord for 20 minutes, and then he gonna give us free rent. You want us to
Yeah.
get put out?
You
That can
wanna
start
be
happening
home.
at 11 or
Pressure
12
on
years
you,
old.
right.
Yeah.
And then it's like, I've been taking care of you your whole life.
Yes.
You don't got no money.
Right.
Right.
right? So how is that supposed to make a kid feel, right? You brought me into this world,
Completely sure.
right?
Yeah.
So now I gotta take care. I gotta feel bad
Now
because
you're feeling guilty.
Right.
Now you have to pay it down.
right.
Yeah.
But
Completely
I owe
rejected.
you, right? You brought me into the world, but now I owe you.
When I got into law enforcement, I quickly realized that when you work for a sheriff's office, you typically, at least for Alameda County and many sheriff's offices, but this is not for all, you start in custody. So you start working in the county jail before you get an opportunity to go out to the streets if you ever go. And I started, one of the things that I did was told myself right away, I'm not judge, I'm not jury. I just am here to do my job, but I also want to know these people's stories, largely because I'm nosy. And because I'm super nosy.
Yeah.
But I'm also just mind blown growing up in a environment and a family where I was loved and protected, to see young people that were not protected by the very people who gave them life or the family who was supposed to protect them. So I started having conversations with the inmates about, how did you get here?
Right.
And when you show them respect, and when you show them respect, they show it back to you. And a lot of them will open up and tell you their story. And I was mind blown by the number of young women who were in there who were first prostituted by their own mother or father. And I mean, I just really couldn't even wrap my mind around it, but it is a thing. And it's still a thing. We have somebody in custody right now who was prostituting her daughter, who wasn't even 5 years, her age was in single digits. And her,
Y'all take her to jail?
oh, she's in custody.
She
Yes.
under the jail?
She hasn't been sentenced yet, but she has to go through trial and all those things. And, you know, she proclaims her innocence, but we don't get to determine who gets to stay or, you know, we don't. But prostituting her daughter, who was single digits, and it took her teenage son to call and report her and turn her in.
Wow.
Her teenage son, when he got old enough to realize
What's
what
going on?
is going on, he reported her. And kudos to him. That is
brave.
That is
Very
such a
brave.
brave.
Right, that's why it needs to be in the schools, right? Because kids don't know what's not right unless somebody teach them or tell them what's not right. They feel like, okay, this has been going on my whole life. How do I know it's wrong, right? And my aunt August, hey auntie, she said, these are babies and we don't have a task force for that. And that's why I think it's really important that we start, we have to put this in the schools.
So
We do. We do.
So I used to go to the meetings with he, the
Okay.
district attorney's office, and it was a task force. Now, I don't go anymore, so I can't speak to whether the task force still exists.
It does,
because
it's
my role,
expanded.
my
It
role
does.
has changed.
They have.
But I used to be the representative for the Alameda County Sheriff's Office, and I would go to those meetings and learn about human trafficking and go out and go into the schools and not just teach young people about what's not right, but there are a lot of parents that are naive and they get groomed by predators at the same time that they're grooming their children. And so when things are happening right in under their noses, they don't realize it because they've also been groomed and
Right.
brainwashed.
I will say MISSSEY is in schools. We're doing a lot of work with OUSD. We are in 9 schools now, I think, and we do a lot of prevention workshops where we talk about these things.
So is that open to like classroom setting, or do their parents have to come after school? Or
It's not-
how do you
It's
present it?
It's usually for kids that they deem high risk. Those who are on the cusp and can go either, you know, so it's for those who are acting out, those who are presenting some form of, hello, look at me. Vulnerability behavior.
Attention seeking behavior.
Okay, so I understand you guys are in the schools. Is there a class after school that they go to, or do you?
It's during the school day.
So
It's during the
like a
so
workshop.
we take over at school hours.
The elective period.
Yeah.
It's the
It
elective
depends.
period.
It depends on what part of the day it is.
And it's not just one time, we're there every week
Every once in a
till
while.
school gets out. So
And
every
sometimes
week until next year.
It's during the Black Girls Brilliance program in OUSD. We'll take like that classroom period and push in there. Because the majority of the exploited youth in Oakland in particular, and about 40%, I was reading an article a couple of days ago for something else I was doing, about 40% of the exploitation that takes place in Alameda County actually takes place in the city of Oakland. You know, for instance, the other 60% in Alameda County is Crossroad Valley. Exactly.
That's what they
Right
were
on
telling.
there.
Well, they
And
said
he's
that it's
15.
moved from East 14 to
One
East
block
15.
over.
It's just one, it's just a back
It's
street.
right, it's right in
Because
that.
there's alleyways
area.
that intersect.
We call it the
between
track.
places. Yeah.
It
Well, that
is-
is, yeah, the track, blade,
that area,
yeah.
Uh-huh.
So, yeah, they were giving me some, we used to call it, I was telling them, they used to call it the whole straw.
Yeah,
But,
back in
yeah,
the
you know,
day.
but
Yeah.
when somebody would have said blade to me
You would-
yesterday, I
Right.
would have been
Like,
like,
what is
I don't know,
that?
that's
Somebody
what
had told you, I mean, the life, you'd have been like, what life? What does that mean?
So the life, I would have think if you would have said the life, I would have been maybe the drug life, but it's not. So the life,
The life is.
But the life can encompass that, right?
It
Because the life encompasses, because how are you basically
Absolutely.
on a nightly basis, a daily basis raped without coping and using something to cope with
And that's
that?
another way
So what do
for
you
girls
use
to
to
get
cope?
hooked, and get reeled into that,
Yeah.
into being in the life is also drugs. So, but I wanted to make another point about interfamiliar pimping before we move on. Also, the parents, let's just say the mama is a hoe and the daddy's a pimp, and then they have children, and then there's a whole family, it's a whole line. I personally have worked with families
Yes.
like that, and so I own my own two eyes, so I know for
Yes.
like this is nothing I could. I
it's
could
normal for
Family,
them.
yeah.
and that's absolutely normal. So if the daughters, if this is, they seen their mama do this their whole life, their daddies, their daddy, their uncles, their uncle friends, the brothers, the whole
Everybody's
family
culture.
is involved in this, right? It's a whole culture within their family. So it's like, then here I come talking about advocacy and resources, and
My
they're like,
family
what you
tree.
mean? That's what we do.
They think you breaking down the family business.
Right.
But you know, it differentiates because sometimes it is so bad, it becomes to be so violent, so dysfunctional, chaotic, just toxic and traumatizing that a young person is like, this is wild.
I
This
got
is-
to go.
I gotta go. Let me figure this out, and then maybe a system will get involved, right? CPS, maybe they'll get a CPS report from school or something. Then they get taken to the assessment center. Then someone is there, an advocate that is well versed and trained in this, to meet with them, figure out what's going on.
We do
So
that
there-
work in Contra Costa County. So when a family is deemed at risk, or when there is reasonable suspicion that someone within that family system may be being exploited, but it doesn't rise to the level of removal from the family, right? They give what's called differential response case management and clinical case management services to the family.
So
And we do that
let me
work in
stop.
Contra
So
Costa County.
there is some suspicion that this kid's
So
being wronged, right?
how can I say it? The
And we're
county-
still, wait, I'm
Go.
not, let me
Yeah,
finish.
no.
There is some suspicion that the kid is being wronged, and we leave the kid in that home, even though we know
It's a little complicated. That's why.
It's very complex. There's laws.
It's a suspicion.
It has to
You
be
haven't
proven.
seen it. You
haven't
haven't
seen
seen
it.
it.
But if I were a little girl, right, and you guys were to come into my home, and I know this is not right, and you leave, right, how does that make me feel that y'all done left me in this
Frightened and
situation?
unsafe.
I feel like also as a little girl, you've already been groomed and taught we don't discuss family business.
Right. But somebody knocks at the door and comes
Doesn't
in.
matter.
And
We
you
don't
can hear the
discuss family
conversation.
business with these people. And you know the
They don't open up that
consequences
Right.
for running their mouth.
And so that's what I'm
This
saying.
is
So
back in the day when you was growing up. What they used to tell us? What goes on in this
Yeah.
house? They have in the house. So it don't matter.
I was
This-
one of them parents said that. I ain't gonna front. I'm telling my damn business.
Most parents, it's your
Don't
family.
carry house there.
I will say this, when, I reflect back to when I was newly on patrol, because a lot of things happened that just blew my mind. And one of them was going into situations where, in my mind, from my law enforcement experience and my training, this doesn't look right. So I am going to take this child into protective custody.
Okay.
And I'm going to take this child to the assessment center or wherever it is that I need to take this child to be safe. And then Child Protective Services would turn around and give them back. Sometimes within an hour, like an hour. And then I got called in by supervision and I got told, you need to be careful about just taking people's children. And I said, I am being careful about taking people's children. I'm taking children into protective custody that I'm standing in a situation that looks to me to be a bad situation,
Safe,
unsafe, inappropriate, no, just all, name it. So I'm taking this kid based on my training and experience, and I'm being told to be careful about taking people's kids because Child Protective Services is pushing back, saying I'm overzealous about taking people's kids. I'm overzealous about protecting kids.
No, for real. I mean,
So
that's
it
Makes
amazing.
them responsible for those children
Right.
and they don't want to be
So
responsible.
do you guys mind if I get a couple questions?
No.
Okay, so Tasha says, how do you provide, no, Cousin did it twice. Hi, Tasha. Tasha says, how do you provide continued support for those who are not ready to leave or they're afraid? How do you provide support?
So at MISSSEY, we safety plan. It's not, we do harm reduction, so we can't say, okay, you have to get out now or we won't work with you, right? You're still in the life, okay, fine, let's make sure you're safe. If something goes down and you need to get away from your exploiter, where can you go? Who can you call? Here's some condoms, have you gone to the doctor? All these things, because we can't force you to do anything.
And then if they would like, connecting them with therapeutic resources that could be with them over the phone.
Exactly.
Just being there, being a person, texting them, checking in with them, hey, you good? Making sure you following their social media, maybe, just trying to be able to be someone of support, a safe adult in their life.
Yeah.
That if something does happen, they know they have somebody that they can talk to.
Yes. Showing up in their life.
I know they probably calling me.
I definitely would be calling
They're not supposed to no
you. You
more
were
'cause I'm
talking
a
about.
manager.
Don't you make that? We're here on that
So-
one. Oh, it's so hard.
Service, but I
They
love
call
my
all the
job.
time. It's
So
so
it's
hard.
difficult not to stay in direct service.
Okay.
The manager, it's very difficult.
Carolyn said, what about the girls who come from decent families? They're not on drugs and they do not have to prostitute, but they choose to prostitute.
They've been
So
groomed.
from my personal experience, and I have to be extremely vague, I met a young woman that came from a very affluent family, extremely. And this young lady was in an environment where an exploiter was able to kind of get to her, and he groomed her over 2 years. So they met when she was 15, 16, and he just talked to her. Her parents are working adults. I mean, this is a good home, a good family that this young lady came from. And this man groomed her. He told her to read certain books that are like the 48 Laws of Power. It's another one that I can't, it's on the tip of my tongue, but there's some books that this man encouraged her to read and guided her learning experience as you read the book. The book, you know how,
I think I just read this. This is local, right? This is something.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Okay. I
What
just
I'm
know.
gonna say is that people that are exploiters, they know the ways, they know how to talk to you and penetrate your mind. So maybe you can't talk to your parents, right? But this older adult male that is coming to you, that you're consistently around, and they like, you know what, you beautiful, you great, you tight, you don't gotta listen to them. Your parents,
You're not like them other girls that I know. You real intelligent.
you
Yeah.
real mature.
You smarter than
Smarter than
them.
everyone else here.
All your little
And I'm gonna
friends.
teach you how to make money for your household, yourself, your
Right.
friends. So So you ain't gotta listen
And you
to
could
nobody.
and you could be with me, and and somehow throughout this you fall in love, right? And now you in the whirlwind with the, you know what I mean?
So
But
I,
also, all
so
the
I-
glitters isn't gold.
go ahead.
But they
Just
only
because
see the
a
glitter in
family
the
looks, but just because
Oh,
a family from the outside looks perfect,
It's not.
doesn't mean it's not. You
Right.
have an alcoholic
There's no
family
physical
system
opinion.
that are functional alcoholics, functional substance users. I've had
They could be
multiple
abusive.
youth on my
Yeah.
caseload who were actually groomed by their father, first sexually assaulted by their father to prepare them for sexual. I had
Exploitation
one
outside
who
the
was,
family.
who was groomed by her father. He was molesting her from age 4, and told her that when her mother or his girlfriends could not take care of him, it was her job to do so.
Sick. That's sick. And so my thing is, I read something recently where something happened to a kid and the parents went to go try to get the kid back, right? And the kid just kept going back and forth, right? So they were rescuing her, so they thought, and then because she had been brainwashed to think this person loved her, she kept going back and forth. And so what do parents do at that point? Do they let their hands go? Because if it were me and it was my daughter, right? I'm one of those crazy mamas for mine. I'm crazy. I'm crazy for y'all kids too. I'm crazy for y'all kids too. To be totally honest, I think they're innocent. Nobody should be touching nobody's damn kids. Not just kids, period. Because they don't know. They didn't ask to be here.
Yeah.
And so
It's sticky.
So as a parent, right? I have a daughter.
Yeah.
I have 2 boys. I have grandchildren.
Yeah.
If somebody was to do something to my babies,
I'm rolling up, Sam.
my husband knows.
I'm
If
rolling with you.
I felt like something, and he'd be like, "Babe, you tripping," and I was persistent about it, we rolling up,
Let
baby.
me ask you a
Always.
question.
Deep.
Let me ask you a question. What would you do if, let's say your sister was in a DV situation?
What's a deep
Domestic violence.
Oh,
A dude
I'm like,
is blessing her with the hands every chance he gets. Every chance he gets.
well, because
And you go get her.
Right.
You go get her.
People can't stand
You go get her, pack up the house, and she leave, and she go back. What you gonna do then?
well, first of all, I'm mad because she went back, but as I'm maturing, I'm understanding that I'm gonna call the police now.
Okay, and
But
she gonna go
even
back.
then, and even
And
if
now
she
she
don't,
mad at you
Yeah.
for getting the police involved in her situation, and she's still gonna go back. What you gonna do then?
So you gotta tell me what I should do. Because for me, I'm gonna be upset. I'm gonna be
Well, I
mad
say
at my sister.
sometimes you can't help everybody.
Allow her to live her life. There's
but
not
you gotta
you
let her
let
know
her
what
live.
you know. What I
No, but
disagree.
the other piece of this is that we've been talking about is a lot of reactionary based on activities that have already happened. And I think what this conversation is about is for us to be more aware about what's going on so that we can teach people what to look for so that they don't even have to even
So they don't
address
make it
this.
this far.
Exactly. So we have to be able to get to the other side of this. I mean, everything that MISSSEY, Catholic Charities in East Bay and BAWAR are doing is wonderful for those individuals who are in the system. But we have to be able, it's our responsibility as a community to make sure that their caseload stays small,
Right.
right? We need to be doing things to make sure that no other children get into
Right,
this
right.
situation. So what we're doing right now is a great start.
And we have when I tell you this is blowing up, she looking at him like, oh wow.
Chat's blowing up.
No, the chats are blowing up, and then we also so this
Give
is
us a
just
question, right.
Facebook. So okay, I said make sure you guys like and subscribe to this page. Make sure y'all share because this is very important information that I didn't know. I'm learning as I learn, y'all gonna learn. I'm not gonna keep anything that I know a secret. These ladies are willing and ready to have these conversations before the end of the podcast. We're gonna make sure we get their contact information just in case something sounds familiar. Or right now, if you're faced with the same situation, we want to make sure that you guys get the help. We want to make sure that you guys can be able to identify it, prevent it. As we said, we can prevent it if we all do our jobs in the beginning, right? I mean, we can't go in people's houses, but there's other things we can do outside the home. And so, I guess we can read some of these comments, huh? Tequila said, I've seen adults do things they never said that they would do. No child is exempt from being educated about a predator. Education is key.
Yeah.
Definitely education is
Talk to
key.
your children.
Latoya said, it's about meeting them where they're at whichever stage it is, and providing support at that level.
Tequila said a young, beautiful, innocent girl I know said she never heard of a pimp. A handsome guy told her she looked like a bag full of money. She was only 12 and had no clue those were pimp words. She was groomed, kidnapped, and prostituted for 5 years. She said those are words she will never forget. All girls and boys need to be informed, not just those who are at risk.
Agreed.
The show Missing usually will share stories of teens. Oh, the show Missing will usually show stories of teens that come from two-parent great households who have been trafficked. Yeah, I just to piggyback on something that you asked, you said I have a daughter and what should parents do? I think that I'm not a parent myself, but I have two very they're young sisters, right? And they used to live with me when they were younger. They lived with me, and so this is something that I've been doing and been a part of for like 7 years. So I'm very well versed in this, just because I was parenting my teen siblings while being a young adult and working in this field, right? And so as a parent of them, or as a parent in general, I would connect. If I suspected anything like this going on with my child, I would immediately connect with community partners and outside resources. If you ever don't know and you don't have the information, you could call 211 and say, there's something going on with exploitation. I think maybe my child is being exploited. I don't know. There's some sexual, some concerns I'm having with my child, and they will point you in the right direction. They will, the 211 and everybody, it's like 411. You can't forget that.
They
They have all
types of
all
resources,
resources.
all types of everything.
They got my number too. Straight up, they don't call
I work with them on various projects, being one of the public information officers for Alameda County Sheriff's Office. And some things that I will also add is parents. When I was a young person, I was not allowed to go anywhere with anybody if my parents didn't know
Their parents.
Yeah.
who lived in the house,
Mhm.
where we were going,
Absolutely.
how we were getting there, what time we were coming back.
All that.
And it wasn't just, oh, we're going with Shali's mom. No, they needed to meet Shali's mom.
I'm coming
Yeah.
over.
They wanted
Over.
to meet, they wanted to make face contact.
Yeah.
They wanted to know
I need
that
phone
I was
numbers.
going to be safe.
Right.
That me and my sister were going to be safe.
Definitely.
We could not spend the night at other people's homes, especially if there were males in the home.
Yes.
Didn't matter if it was a daddy,
Yeah.
an uncle, a grandmother.
Yeah.
Me and my sister, my mom and dad did not let us spend the night in anyone's home where there were men home.
No.
Yeah, what they brother.
Yeah.
And some of the
Yeah.
things that I want to say that to parents that to things to look out for. When if you notice, whether it's your son or your daughter, because I said it before, there are young men being trafficked. If you notice that they're withdrawn, they are not giving you information about where they're going or who they're going to be with, what time they're coming back. They're being very vague. They're hiding their phone. These phones, most of you guys are paying the bills for these phones.
Yeah.
And you're paying phone bills, you need access. Or even if they're living in your home, you need to know, there should be a code on that phone that you can't put in and open.
Your
This is
face-
my
your
house.
face should be on
You are a
there.
juvenile, and I'm going to check your phone, I'm going to check your social media, because I want to see who you're talking to. I want to see what type of things you're posting, because some of the people that are trafficking are not much older than the
And
people
then,
being
and then
trafficked.
they coming through social
And
media.
you're on the
Right.
phone.
If they're being
If you
rude.
call
That's a big one.
your service provider,
Mhm.
you can get a copy of their text message.
Absolutely,
Don't
you
ask me
can.
how I know my business. But I also have a child.
Thank you for that tip. No, you can't.
It's your phone. It's your phone.
There's a
But
question.
along with that, you gotta build rapport and
Yes.
trust and
Trust,
love and
yes.
All
unconditional
of those
care with your
things.
kids
Yes.
because they're not gonna tell you
Absolutely.
nothing. They're gonna run to the sky
And
and they're gonna be the first thing they're gonna be looking for is a man.
And
If
talk to
you
them
don't- if you don't
tell
talk
them
to
the
your kid,
truth
right?
about exploitation.
Absolutely.
Don't hide it and pretend that they're never gonna see it.
Right.
You have to say something. You have to take them. I took my kids to
I
the
used to
track.
take my daughter.
I showed them Yeah. where it was, what it was like,
Yeah.
what
Who's
happens
out there?
down here,
What do you see?
who's here, what do you see here?
Right.
There was a young girl that was thrown out of a car by one of the gorilla pimps on High Street at the time, and it was on High Street. Remember, it was on High Street at one point. I picked her up and took her to Highland with my kids in the car to show my children, this is how we act as community. We take care of ourselves. We take care of each other. And this is what happens if this is what you do.
That's good.
You leave my sight, you are not with me.
Absolutely.
You are too young to be out there. You don't know what's going on in this world. You've been somewhat sheltered. This is what happens, right? But we're also speaking from a place of privilege. I just need to kind of elevate that because a lot of families, right? You know, poverty has a huge impact, right? Huge impact. When you're trying to survive, do you have the time to take your kid to High Street, take your kid to East 14, work in 2 or 3 jobs to pay rent, have to go to the food bank to get food, right? Have to rely on other programs, social services programs. Do you actually have the wherewithal to explain these things to your children? Do you have the wherewithal to help them stay active in activities that can tend to their mind and their body, which keeps kids sort of, you know, in busy. Yeah, that's a better word. Not about happy, but busy.
So it looks like there's a comment on the screen that says, awesome topic. Do any of the organizations go to junior high schools? I think,
Yes,
yes.
yes, we do.
And so can you guys give them the name or a website that they can go to? Do we have a website with the name of your organization?
Oh, Missy. It's just missy.org.
But it's not just Missy. You got like
It's
crickle letter.
Three S's. Absolutely.
I'm telling you, I was writing down like, am I
That's a
spelling
gateway.
this right?
That is a gateway. Why we talking about cricket letter?
So
Cricket letter.
we're gonna drop that down in the comment section when we're done. Like I said, everybody's gonna provide their information. I know you want to talk about systems, right? What does that look like? I know you were really excited about talking about systems. So
She's always excited to talk
I'm
about
always
systems.
excited because I think this is the origin
It is.
of all of this. Are systems of oppression, right?
Mm.
Right? Like I said, capitalism, it conditions you to abuse, a form of use of giving. And you receive nothing depending on your positionality in society. Right? Black women, what do we get? Social services. Black men, what do you get? Prison pipeline. That's what you get from that extractive capitalism, right?
that's why
It's a
important.
privilege to be in the positions we're in, right? We ascribe to the false meritocracy and went out there and got some type of education to get ourselves to what we thought was elevating us somewhere else. And then all of a sudden, then they move the bar. They start putting a price tag on that education, right? Which then blocks
Because,
us from
yeah,
that.
degrees were valuable until we started getting them.
Yeah.
Right,
Black women in particular.
right.
Yes.
No, definitely. I can see that.
Now they want to give somebody with a master's degree $40K. How you gonna survive?
You can't.
In the state of California.
They want to
Yeah.
keep a lid over here.
20 years
No, it's
ago,
all
a master's
intentional,
degree.
right? These
Right.
systems are intentional to continue to oppress us, to uphold white supremacy, right?
Talk about it. And so,
Yeah.
How do
Probably.
many of us are enslaved in the mind?
Yeah.
and that's
We are enslaved in the mind, and if we're being honest about this human trafficking epidemic, I said it before, many of our young boys and girls are being trafficked by people who look like them.
Yeah.
absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely.
And
It
it stems from oppression. and
Absolutely.
It stems from
Poverty.
Because they're
systemic.
also,
Right.
I was
Victims of trauma.
Right.
They're also victims of trauma. I work with someone else that in the past that has had the opportunity to interview a young lady that's being exploited and also interview the exploiter.
Mhm.
Maybe he's 21, maybe she 17, right? They together and they trying to survive. They trying to get some money. They trying to be okay out here and get their needs met in life, and then if they both ain't fooling with their family, maybe both of their family has traumatized them. Maybe they both system involved, right? Maybe they both former foster youth. So they just trying to figure life out. And in the Bay, I mean, honestly, just like, this Bay Area culture, it's Oakland culture.
But
that shouldn't be,
it's true.
okay though,
It's not. It's absolutely
Because
not.
how-
But it is.
But
And
that's
it's
what
not.
it is.
How
What's
can
normalized.
kids are no longer skipping, right, down the street. Their youth have been taken
I
away.
feel like
It's
They're
a
no longer
culture
But I
to
feel
some
like-
degree that's been glamorized
Yes.
because you have
right.
like hip hop and stuff.
Yes,
This is a
definitely.
culture.
Yeah.
This is a culture that has been glamorized.
I was
And
also gonna say,
in my
depending on where
professional
you're from,
experience,
kids weren't skipping anyway.
right, I've experienced people coming from other states.
Oh,
Young
yeah.
people,
Oh, yeah.
young people,
Oh,
yeah.
coming from
Yeah.
other states to work in
We're
trafficking
privileged.
laws.
Oakland.
Right.
Privileged.
Oakland is a
Yeah.
hotspot.
Yes.
Absolutely. So
Yes,
for sure. So that's what the online game comes in at.
Yes.
People are being
People
solicited
being-
online. So come and fly
Absolutely.
here.
Right.
I'm gonna take care of you.
I'm gonna take
Come and meet.
care
Come
of
and
you.
meet. So it starts off with a little conversation,
Right.
Yeah.
and you start to have these.
You
your
could do.
your kid like this,
You could do.
and they're talking to grown men.
Yeah.
Come and meet
And
me.
sometimes they're talking to people they're in their age group.
Right.
Peer recruitment.
Who are recruiting.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I would say it starts before that. What they see on the videos, they want to be able to have that. What they see on TV, which is something that they inspire to do instead of taking the route of earning it on your own, or making sure that there's a way that you can have an education. This is the path that they want to go. It's
Right.
quick. It's readily available, and somebody is offering to you.
Instant gratification.
And
And that's the way of the world now, right?
Absolutely.
The videos,
Absolutely.
these cell phones, immediate instant gratification. And that's what they're looking to recreate because that's what the media, social media shows, right?
Yeah.
Is valuable. That's what we value as a society, right? The unequal distribution of wealth.
Technology. I think TV.
I've said that for a
It's
long
just TV
time.
because if you notice, Black people are only people that have a TV in each room. Right? I've been I'm telling you, it's programming. I'm
I
telling
do
you.
not.
We all black,
I
so we
used
can
to.
go there.
But I'm telling you because you put it down.
Right. I watch TV and I'm like,
because we are being programmed,
Yeah.
right? We are being programmed, and then we want Caucasians have one TV, and they get to watch it every
Nah.
now and then. Well, the
When
ones
they
that I
come
see,
together.
they watch that one TV together. So
I'm
they
gonna
watch
say it's prevalent with children. It doesn't matter the race. And I'm just gonna we have so many.
It's a babysitter for many.
Yeah.
And then
It's
also
a babysitter
the
for a lot of
tablets, the
people, but like
All that.
human
Yeah.
trafficking and C-sex, it's everywhere. It hits
C-sex.
everyone.
Mhm.
C-sex, yeah, C-sex.
So
Commercial.
Commercially
Okay.
exploited children.
So y'all with these
Acronyms, I told you.
Oh, there's so
She
many.
ain't gonna-
There are so many. And it used to be SEM, sexually
Exploited
minors.
minors.
Yeah.
My program used to be the SIM program, formerly Above is formerly known as the SIM program in Alameda County, but we changed our name. Don't nobody want to go to a program called Sexually Exploited Minors.
Right.
Nobody.
So what can we do, y'all? I know we have a rescue number, which is 1-888-3737-888, or text help to 233-733. Of course, if you're watching this and you are in danger, text help to 233-733. And then I've also
Can you
noticed,
say that a little bit slower?
yes, I can. You can text help to 233-733. Again, text help, HELP, to 233-733. And what I noticed, like if I'm on a trip and I'm coming home in the bathroom,
Oh,
in the bathroom stall,
Yeah,
at the airport, it
all
says,
of
I'm like, why would they put that there?
It's all
But
over
until I
purpose.
started reading this, I'm like, okay, they would allow them to go to the restroom.
Yeah.
And so if you in there, this is an opportunity for you to get away,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Or to be able to,
Ask for help.
Or
Get that
and
number
at
at
least be
least.
in a space by yourself.
Yeah.
right?
Not have anybody watching.
Yeah.
And sex trafficking is not just about children, right?
No.
I'm told people can be offered
Adults.
jobs,
Yeah.
or people that come here from other countries and they're illegal.
Pornography and
They
Well,
become,
Or even if you
they
want.
get trafficked
Well,
because
that
they have to pay a debt.
Mhm.
And,
Yeah.
you know, it's like they become indentured slaves because they may have given them a price. Oh, I can take you to the United States for $5,000.
right.
And then when they get here, they're like, oh, okay, that was to get
they
you
own
here.
you.
But now
You
you
live,
gotta
you
pay
pay
this
rent,
rent, you gotta pay this amount, I
You
paid
gotta
you, I
pay,
did all.
right.
So it just never
Now you gotta
ends.
bill.
Never,
Right.
it's a never ending cycle. It's a
I
never
mean,
ending
it's all the
cycle.
intersectionality of all the things we're talking about, right? The domestic violence or intimate partner violence, depending on how, all of that is all connected, right? Sexual abuse from an early age, poverty, all these systems we're talking about. That's the intersectionality. How all these things come together to create the system of exploitation.
So, Rhonda said that's not Oakland as a whole. Nobody ain't talking about Oakland. I'm from Oakland.
We love Oakland, me too.
I believe in
I love
Oakland, so ain't nobody
Oakland.
talking
We
about
just said
Oakland.
that
Oakland
Oakland
is
is a
the
hotspot.
culture.
It's hot. I think a lot of us.
Go look, Google the Oakland top rap song.
Right.
So,
It is. We're not saying that everybody in Oakland is involved.
Mhm.
We're not saying, we're not speaking negatively about Oakland, but it is a culture that is deeply rooted in this city and has been glamorized to the point where people are coming from other states, young people. I had a case where a young woman, I was working midnights and she was a white girl from Oregon that looked like, you know, she lived next door to Judy Moore Cleaver.
Mm.
And she came all the way she came from Oregon because she met some young people in her age group on social media and they glamorized the Bay. I mean, it is pride in the Bay.
It's
right?
good.
So they told
are the
her,
culture.
you know, they sold it to her, you know, the local rappers and, you know, just all the things that there are to do here. And she had a family member that lived somewhere like Davis or not too far, within an hour.
Right.
So she got permission from her parents to come here for the summer to stay with that relative. And eventually, because they trusted her, they gave her leeway to, you know, come and go because she was about 16, 17 years old and she started hanging out in Oakland. And initially it started, I'm hanging with my friends. And then they said, let me tell you how to make some quick money.
Mhm.
And then before she knew it, she was working on East 14th Street. And
Right.
I got her that night, her and the person that she got in the car with, an adult.
Mhm.
And he went to jail and she went to our station. And through just some interviewing and talking to her and trying to figure out, who are you? How old are you? What are you doing here? Because they lied initially. I don't got an ID. I'm 21, all the things. And ended up finding out her story. Had to make some phone calls, and her family they were just outdone.
Right.
They had no idea that she was in another state prostituting herself. And it all started from connections on social media. So we're not saying that it's all of Oakland. We're just saying that this is a hot spot. And
Oakland is one of the longest tracks in the country.
Yes.
We're a port.
That is still thriving.
Yes.
And see, I never knew this. You know, being here my whole
I never knew it.
life, right? I never knew that people
Never
would
heard
come
of it.
here because is it because our law enforcement is not doing what they're supposed to do, or
No.
we're not
It's
catching them,
the
or
access.
just the
You
You have
access?
access, bus,
Access.
plane, train,
Right.
boat, everything.
It's
We're
a
everything.
port.
We're
It's a major
access.
port.
Yeah.
This is a major.
Right.
It's a major port.
There's so many
Immigration
there's easy
port,
access.
right?
There
California.
are plenty of ways in,
Mhm.
and there are plenty of ways
And
out.
it's smaller, right? But on a smaller city than like San Francisco probably has a less population, but I mean, it's a smaller city embedded in a large You can get lost.
area.
metropolitan area.
There we
right?
go. That's what I was
Right.
looking for.
Yeah.
The metropolitan
Yeah.
area. So they said human trafficking is everywhere.
Yeah.
It
is.
really
It's
everywhere.
$150 billion industry.
It is everywhere, but we're here to focus on.
But we in
we
the top-
are.
but we in the top
Jeff
10.
Bezos,
Right.
$221 billion
It's a
$150 billion business a
It
year.
absolutely is, and the fact that Oakland is on the map in this nation for being one of the biggest hotspots.
No.
It is
No,
a
no.
fact, and I mean, people can say what they want to say. They cannot believe it. They can say Oakland
know,
always
it's a
gets a
fact.
bad rap, but if the statistics don't lie, it is what it is. And the way that we attack this is through all the resources, but education. Until people get on board with this and start understanding that the purpose of this is not to talk bad about Oakland.
No.
It's to have real talk
Right.
about what's happening in Oakland and what's happening to people who look like us, and to strategize with law enforcement, all the services, and the families and the educators, and get all of us connected in a way that we are having continuous dialogue about what we're dealing with, honest dialogue, transparent dialogue,
Right.
and continue to talk and continue to chop at that tree so that we start seeing change.
Right.
Because no change is easy for anybody in any type of industry, whether it's a professional industry or whether you are a victim of something. Change is scary because even if you're being victimized here, at least you know what you're dealing with. And thinking about leaving this to go to the unknown makes a victim
Right.
even more afraid.
Where do you go? What do you
Right.
do?
So we need to
When that's all
stop
you know.
shaming people
Yes.
and stop further victimizing them by, children don't prostitute. They
Holding
get
the
raped.
purchasers
They're right.
responsible for
Right.
what they do
Yeah.
instead of
It's the
slapping them
language.
on the hand and
Right.
allowing
It's
them to language, right?
That's a
When
whole
you call a
other story.
13-year-old a
Yeah.
prostitute,
Because we live in a
Sounds kinda
very
different
real
than
world.
a
Yeah.
13-year-old
Exploited child.
A victim. Because definitely they are victims.
Right. That is a victim.
trying to
That is a
survive
victim of
exploitation.
They're definitely victims, and so
Right.
I agree with you. That word is harsh, and that's still a child, right? And someone has gotten into this to make her feel or them feel like it's okay, and it's not okay. And this segment is definitely is to educate us. I appreciate you guys being here. I know we didn't cover. We're gonna go over really quick about if you feel, but what does it look like? If I feel like a kid, is being touched, or they show signs of aggression, or withdrawal.
Draw,
So-
anger,
So I'm gonna let y'all.
consistent irritability that's different. A change. Something you see that's a change.
Drastic
They're
changes.
coming home
Drastic
with tennis shoes, cell phones, right?
Yes.
2 phones,
Yeah.
hiding one phone at night you know nothing about. You have one and you're tracking them on this one, but they have something else and they're on social media all hours of the night, 5, 6 o'clock in the morning. You wake up, you catch them on social media, they hide it.
What you doing?
Yeah.
Having new friends that you don't
Yeah.
Yeah.
know about,
New
where
friends.
they
Where they
come from.
mama?
Coming home
Friends
with
who
some
are older.
strange person in a
Right.
car with
Yeah.
an older
They
person.
definitely
Being dropped
out of your
off by an
age
older
range.
person. Yeah.
a block away and walking home,
Right.
but you could see
Why
them.
can't they drop you off in front of your
Right.
home?
Right, yeah.
Right. So parents, know your kids, love your kid,
Mhm.
talk to your kid, give them love and affection, tell them that they're beautiful, because you don't want someone else telling them that, right? You don't want anybody else telling them that so that they can exploit them, right? We want to make sure that whatever they need, they get it from us. They get it in our home, and not from anybody else. Because what happens is, if they're striving for something or they're desiring something, they should be able to say, "Mama, give me a hug."
Mhm.
My daughter's 29 years old, and she'll say to me, "Give me a hug." And I just hug her and love her. And I just thought, first I thought she was a little
Baby.
crazy, because she's just like,
29,
29, Mama, give me a hug. And I'm giving my
Listen,
baby.
I've
You
been
did your
trying
job
to get
well.
into my mama's house since I left.
You did your job well.
Right, no,
I
I'm
get in the
not-
shower sometimes, cry, Mama,
Yeah.
please go back.
Sometimes as parents, we have a difficult time talking to our children. We can talk to everybody else, but we have a difficult time talking to our own children. And if you are struggling in that area, you have people in your family, in your friend circle that you trust, let them talk to them. Don't let the conversation not happen because you don't know how to have it. Let
Because you're
somebody have it
uncomfortable
with your
with it.
child, whether it is a therapist. Black folks, stop acting like therapy is
No, I'm
not okay.
Amen.
Because
Therapy
plenty
is
of people still don't think Black people go to therapy.
Therapy
Or that
is
we need it. It's
amazing.
You have
Black
two
people
sitting
go
right
therapy.
here.
Yes.
And we have therapists ourselves.
It's
That's-
necessary for many people because of the traumas that we have experienced as people
Mhm.
and that we continue to experience as people. And so I say to parents all the time, if you can't have conversations with your children, identify people that you trust, that you know have your child's best interest at heart, and or people that you can see and know they have a good relationship with auntie, or they have a good relationship with grandma or someone, and impart your concerns on that person. Don't be ashamed. This is not the time to be embarrassed. This is not time to hold back facts because you don't want people to judge you. This is the time to put it all out there and be transparent and fight for your child.
Right.
Or the next door neighbor's child, or any child that you may see that may be a victim.
I just want to add that one of the things, I went to Catholic Charities yesterday and training in human trafficking a couple years ago. And one of the things that kind of knocked me off of my chair was the life expectancy of individuals who are impacted by human trafficking. And right now, 7 years.
There it is.
So if there is no incentive for individuals to learn how to talk to their children about the impact of the perils of human trafficking, is to talk to them from the perspective that your life expectancy will be short.
Very much.
Tremendous.
And so we're going to be wrapping up in just a couple of seconds. And it says there's 3 P's, how to stop trafficking. And it's to prevent, protect, and prosecute.
Prosecute.
You
got it.
You was close. You didn't say that. I didn't say that. You were close. 3 P's.
You did it.
You should have looked in your face. I was like, wait, what word am I trying to say?
Say
Prevent, protect, and prosecute. Yeah. So we all can do this together. I think as a community, there's nothing we can't do if we have each other. And I think we need to recreate these villages that once existed. Bring back the village. A lot of people say it's not my problem. Yes, it is. At some point, it's gonna be your problem. Trust me when I tell you. My house is okay, but the house next door isn't.
Right.
And because the house next door isn't, my house is not okay.
Right.
Because at some point, it's gonna affect you, right? You walk out this door right now today, you're a victim. You are part of this product that we all allowed to happen, right? Them seeds were planted. We saw that there were weeds in that garden. And as a village, we never went over there to pluck them. So how do you expect a kid to grow, right? And there's weeds all over the damn place. Them weeds are gonna kill that baby, right?
Community healing circles to heal ourselves, right? That's kind of what you're talking about. We can't recreate the village in the sort of way in which our ancestors did, right? But we can create through cultural practices that speak to us, like relationship building, right? Peer support. And we can do that through like circles of support. That's what we do at Catholic Charities through restorative practices.
Okay. And I think you have one more thing.
I
to
just
say.
wanted to touch on the 3 Ps and prevent. I said it earlier, you, that's through education. Protect, that's through talking to your children, letting them know that they're loved, creating a space where they feel empowered them, where they feel safe enough to talk to you or someone else that they love, to get their story out there and feel that protection that, okay, now that I know this, I'm not going to hate you or think less of you. I'm going to protect you, and we're going to fight to get you where you need to be.
And we're gonna fight
And then prosecute. That's the hardest one, because a lot of these people, it's a revolving door going in and out of jail, in and out of jail. And that's because without a willing participant as a victim, then you don't have anything to prosecute. So you don't have a case. And so those, education and that protection piece helps us get to that prosecute. Because when people feel protected and they feel like they have a space where they have a village and people that are going to stand with them and speak up and not let that, that perpetrator come back for them, then we can start speaking against them. They will start speaking against them because they know they have that village and that protection behind them. You know what I'm saying? And then once they're speaking against them, then you build a case. And when you have a case, then you can prosecute. Because without no victim, you can't prosecute anybody.
I'm with you. You said what kind of thing? Okay, yeah, we're gonna make this the final.
I know you're ready. But Maisha said there has to be a part 2.
So we can do a part
You
2.
opened us up.
Y'all feel comfortable.
Absolutely. Why we got a part 2?
I want to learn too at this point, but I will just say that it's really like empowering, engaging, and encouraging young people, right? And having this is my main thing though, as a community member and as an advocate of sexually exploited minors, we have to have some more financial outs. We need to get with our board members, our leaders, the legislation, mayors, everyone like that. We need more financial outs that are actually tangible, that are long lasting, without having ways to get out of the life and still have ways to take care of yourself. It's very less likely that someone will be willing to go into certain programming and more willing to change. So without those, housing, opportunities,
Employment.
real
Education,
employment, not for
reliable
$15. We
state
living up with.
organization.
Okay, that's it. That's all I want to say.
I think this has been amazing. We gotta have a part 2, y'all. See, they maybe promise, pinky promise.
I have a whole lot more to say today. I think we all have a lot more to say.
Well, this is like we're scratching the surface, but at least we're having this
This
conversation.
is a conversation we can have in an hour or 2.
Yeah.
Right, so we're gonna definitely need more time. Then that way we can go back and fill some of the questions. There's a lot of questions that we haven't even touched upon, and so. If you don't mind, like later on, you guys go to the page and kind of look at the podcast and be able to answer some of those questions. But I wanted to tell you guys, I appreciate you. I am glad that you guys are here. This is a conversation that has been long time in the making, and I have been truly blessed by it because there's a lot of things. I didn't think Oakland was known for that, right? I didn't think that. And I just wanted to end with a quote by Frederick Douglass, who says it is easier to build strong children than it is to repair a broken man, right? Mm-hmm. It's easier to build strong children, which means parents, it starts early. Love them, educate them, give them support. If you can't do it by yourself, other people are waiting for you. They're ready to back you up, right? I'm auntie to everybody. I'm auntie to like 40 years. I'm coming after 45. You can't call me auntie. I'm only 47. Don't be playing with me like that. But I'm just saying, you have support. You be amazed how so many people are willing to share. We have resources at this table. Drop it. If you guys are ashamed and you don't want to drop it on the text me, inbox me. I won't share your information, but we do want to get help. And if you are a victim, we want to help you as well. You can call me an auntie this time. Put it in my inbox, and I promise I will forward to one of our resources here. I ain't gonna call the police. I'm gonna call the resource and let them do it. I ain't into all that. But we want you to call the resource. Well, I'm gonna contact the resource because you know. Go ahead.
I just want to say we have a 24-hour anonymous hotline. So if you ever need support or just for resources or someone that is an open ear to just listen to you so you can feel heard and probably get some, not even probably, but definitely get some information that you may need. It's at 510-800-4247. Again, that is 510-800-4247. And that is BAWAR Anonymous 24/7 hotline. Call us, we'll answer. We'll be here.
There you go. So y'all go ahead and drop the hearts. We'd like to see the hearts coming through. But thank you, Jaliza. Thank you, Lieutenant Ty, Kirsten, Shelly, Shelitha, and myself. So you guys, right? I'm just like, and the doctor. We don't say the doctor. We got the lieutenant. We got all kind of stuff going on at this table. But again, thank you guys for tuning in to Samantha Wise Words. We're gonna try to bring it back once a month because it's needed. We appreciate the comments, the shares, so on and so forth. So we love you. We appreciate you. We are there for you, and wishing you guys a wonderful Friday evening. So goodbye.
Bye.